Okay, Dino Rider in the house first tonight. Good to see you. Good to see all you guys. Keith Kronoff in the house. We're great, man. Thanks for asking. Hey, this is Chris with Cycle Source Magazine, and we are getting ready to go live. Just 4 short minutes out from launching another incredible episode of the Motorcycle Cannonball Chronicles. Hump Day here in the studio, man. Good to see all you guys. Remember, do us the favor of like and share. Mash the like and share button. Make sure all your friends and neighbors know we're going live with Two Wheel Entertainment all over the known universe. Thanks to our friends over at Chopper Town, Cycle Source Magazine for helping get the word out. Big D checking in. Good to see you here, man. Just 3.5 minutes, we're going live. Stick around. Jason Holman, oh my goodness. All the way from Lakeland, Florida. Scott Stefano, let's roll. We're almost there. David Lloyd, number 154 in the house. Good to see you here, man. Don Gilmore, Chase, number 22. Remember, if you guys have a rider number, if you're wondering what that is, throw it up there. We can give you a shout out. Always good to see the riders here, getting ready for this year's events, celebrating the ones past. We're just 2 minutes out. Can you hear me now? I can't hear you, man. 2 minutes out, we're going live with this week's Motorcycle Cannonball Chronicles. Oh, David Bird, I missed one there. Kent, Ohio. Round the World Doug, howdy from Vegas. Doug, man, good to see you. Haven't seen your name up here in a little bit. David Crum, looking good. Parking lot's filling up nice now, man. We're going to have a great show. Walter Coro, happy hump day. Walter Benarski in from New Jersey. Don Gilmore, nice meeting Robert Oley. I know you're just saying that because he paid you $20 to say it. 41 seconds now, 41 seconds away from launching this show. I guess that means it's just about time to get this one up out of the shed and onto the road. Let's go live with this week's Cannonball Chronicles. Here we go.
Well, hey there, Cannonball Nation. What is happening? I'm coming to you live from Las Vegas. That's right. I'm on the 22nd floor of the Planet Hollywood Hotel. Unfortunately, Vegas is trying to censor me a bit. That is why you're seeing the picture that you are. I have my audio. It will not let me show the video. I guess, they want to keep what happens in Vegas stays in Vegas type of thing. So anyway, we're going to do what we can. We're going to bring a great show tonight. We'll talk a little bit about Vegas. what's happening here, probably what will happen over the next few days, and so on and so forth. Without ado, I want to bring in my co-host, Mr. Robbie Nussbaum, coming from Jersey.
Hey, Jason, you can't see me and I can't see you, and that's just the way I like it, my brother.
Hey, this is going to be like our normal conversations on the phone, I guess.
Yeah.
It's going to start like this. What up?
Nada. What up?
Nada.
That's our normal conversation on the phone. Jason, what'd you see today? What's exciting at Mecum?
Dude, let me tell you. I sent Chris some pictures. We'll kind of pull these up, but wow. I mean, Las Vegas and the antique motorcycle auctions with Mecum started this morning in full force. Some really, really great bikes there. Just a really eclectic mix of everything. You know, I think the oldest one I seen was a 1903 all the way up to, I think, a 2019. So anything in between is there, all different makes and models. So really great day today. Really great day to just get everything kicked off and finally get back on this thing. So I took just a few little snapshots here of some of maybe my favorites that are here. I'll keep updating Instagram on the following days on both the Chase and the Cannonball of, you know, kind of our favorites for those. So watch out on there.
Did the Crocker go through already?
No, I think that particular Crocker sells on Saturday. So mostly everything that sold today was mostly European and Japanese stuff. I think there was only maybe just a handful of American bikes, and they were kind of some lightweights, you know, such as the Harley Hummers and the Harley Scats and that kind of stuff. So
were there, it looked like a lot of early in the day partial bikes, you know, basket case type stuff?
I think so. Yeah. It seemed like that. So it seems like, you know, a lot more of this stuff that's coming to auctions are, you know, people's probably lifelong collections of, as we all know, we all have projects and stacked up in the garage, you know. So I think, you know, as these people are getting older and letting stuff go, they're letting everything go, from, you know, the basket cases to all the complete restored ones.
What time do they start tomorrow? They evidently they were on YouTube today.
They are. So they broadcast the whole thing live on YouTube all day, every day during the auction. Gates open at 8:00. Memorabilia starts at 9 and bikes at 10. So I think
okay, so that's West Coast time too, right?
Yeah, West Coast time. So
right.
I think they're due to have about 356 motorcycles for tomorrow. That's what it looked like. So
they're gonna run anything through at 7:00 at night again?
I'm sure we'll see it tomorrow. You know, tomorrow a lot of the good stuff starts selling. So a little bit more of the high-end bikes, all that kind of stuff. So, you know, when they get up there and the prices get a little higher, it takes a little bit longer to sell them. So,
right.
Hey, Jason.
How'd you do today?
I did good. I had a lot of fun, talked with a lot of people, kept my wallet closed. And,
what'd you sell?
Sold a couple.
What did you sell?
So I sold, today I sold a Rokon.
Wow.
And a couple of Hondas. Yeah.
Oh, no kidding. Cool.
Yeah. So,
Jason, we have a picture that you sent in with a Vincent in the foreground, but over the back seat of it, I can see the black and orange. It almost is that actually a VR 1000?
Oh yeah. So they actually do have a VR 1000 there. I mean, don't quote me right, but I think this is the second one that's ever came up for sale ever, you know, because most of them were factory owned, I believe.
So this belonged to a privateer, probably?
It was, yeah. I think this is part of the George Schott collection.
Okay.
He was a big dealer in Maine.
Right.
So he's recently sold the dealership up there, from what I heard, and last year and this year, he's probably sold close to 100 motorcycles now.
So here's a little backstory on George Schott as I've heard it. Don't take it as gospel, but the way I heard it is George Schott bought a shopping mall to house his motorcycles. Had you ever heard that story?
I've never heard that story, but I wouldn't doubt it.
Yeah, so somebody once texted me a picture of all these bikes in a shopping mall in the stores, right? And the mall was empty. And I said, what the hell is that? They said, that's George Schott's collection. He uses the mall as his bike storage area.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice.
So it'd be nice if we could get maybe somebody watching can verify that. But that's what I heard. And I saw pictures of it. So it's pretty cool stuff.
Yeah.
Any idea why he's selling the collection? Has any rumors come about? Just because
well, I mean, he is getting of that age now, and I know he did sell the dealership 2 or 3 years ago now. So, and I guess the new owners just don't want the stuff there. They're trying to modernize a little bit, I heard. So,
right.
Of course, he ain't got no room to store everything, and
he may have sold the mall.
Yeah.
So, huh. Well, that's pretty interesting.
Yeah, so for you guys out there that are, fairly interested in looking for bikes, Mecum's always a good spot to find a potential, for either a Cannonball bike or a chase bike.
So you posted a picture earlier today of a knucklehead collection of every year knucklehead.
Oh, yeah. I wish I would have sent that video to Chris. That was pretty cool. So that's another collection of a person that just recently passed away. And his collection is going up for sale. His name slipped me a little bit. I think it's J.C. Bergeron or something like that. I can't remember, but he had one of every knucklehead from 36 to 1947, and lined up all in a row like that. So pretty cool to see.
And that's on your personal Facebook page, right? If somebody wants to check it out, go to Facebook, Jason Sims, right?
Yeah. Or you can go to my Instagram at Sturgis Vintage Cycles.
Cool.
So
well, it sounds
I'll be putting some more videos about that together. Tomorrow I'll be doing them on the Cannonball and the Chase sites, since a few more of those bikes actually kind of maybe qualify for each one of those events. So I'll put out my favorites on my page. I'll put out the Cannonball's favorites on their page and the Chase favorites on theirs. So
sounds pretty neat. Cool stuff.
Yeah.
Podger wants to know, hey, Podge, just want to say hi too. Are the numbers of attendees in Vegas up or down?
Of course, it's way, way down from what I've seen so far. I think for a first day Wednesday of what they actually have there for a Wednesday auction, I think the numbers were pretty good. Prices seemed really, really strong in some of the stuff. I think there was just a few deals. And it looked like they had probably a 99.9% sale rate today, which is, seems pretty exciting.
Yeah.
So, of course, I mean, probably 90% of the stuff was no reserve, so it was going to sell anyway. But, I still think that that's a pretty good sell rate.
Chris Simmons says, now that you got money in your pocket, Jason, and you're a fat cat, she said you need to buy her Effie Strider, her Effie replica Strider.
I would love to buy that Strider. We sent her a pretty cool picture today. I wish I would have got that one from Marilyn Stemp. We took a pretty cool picture with a little Effie and me and Doug Wathke. So I'll try to get that from her tomorrow and post that up online. But that money I got today, that's going for health insurance. So
you need that.
Sometimes you got to do that growing up stuff.
So I have on screen a picture of the Strider that this is interesting how fast this really happened. Around this time last year was out visiting Pat and Chris, and they had just gotten the Strider, and we all talked about it and turned it upside down to get the shape. And
right.
And then they did all the work on it. In fact, that front end on that bike came off a tricycle, and Chris pulled out a photo of her on the same tricycle when she was a little child.
Oh, no kidding.
Yeah. She goes, look at this picture. It's the same front end.
That's
and
killer.
Steve Hunziker did a lot of work helping Chris on, getting the tanks fabricated or whatever. But Chris put a lot of work in that thing, so it's pretty cool.
Oh, dude, it's killer. I can't wait to see them together when Chris buys that thing back. That she brings little Effie and Effie together.
Yeah, that needs to go home, I think, doesn't it?
I think so.
I think so too. Chris, ask the decider. Find out what he has to say about that. So that's pretty cool stuff, man. My wife says, so this little guy here, can you see the image at all, Jason, or just hear us?
No, I can see the image. You just can't see me.
So this little guy right here wanted to say hi to everybody. Chris sent him out again. He travels at the speed of light. So, bam. And my wife says, I need Pokey on the other shoulder over here. So, anyway, enough of that.
Right.
So, I'm pretty excited about tonight's guest.
Yeah, absolutely.
Had a chance to meet him when I was in Ole last week, and we had a really nice time chatting. So, let's take a commercial break, and then we'll spend the rest of the show chatting with our guest Jeff tonight. All right. So
I love it.
Chris, if you're ready, let's roll some commercials. Will we see you folks back on the other side?
My name is Patrick Maloney. Most all my friends call me Mo. I liked motorcycles and hot rods long before I could drive. I remember looking out the window of the family car when I was a kid, and my mom would see me eyeballing that guy on a Harley and just knowing it was just burning her up. I never had a street bike until I joined the Navy. The Navy was cool. We always had a group of guys. All the guys on the ship that rode Harleys always hung out together. I remember getting off the ship with snow on the ground in Virginia, and the first place I went was right up to that knucklehead and fire it up. Never gave it another thought. A lot of times I didn't have a car. That's how I got into biking. 6 months later, I bought another one. Probably another 6 months later, I bought a knucklehead rolling chassis with a pair of chrome Invader wheels on it and a Jocklid 4-speed transmission, candy red over gold. Right in the middle of a trailer park, I found a knucklehead motor. Bought that motor for $350 in 1982. This isn't just my garage, this is my living room. My name's Patrick Maloney, and I'm a Dennis Kirk garage builder.
Everything we do at the track shapes what we build for the street and the dirt.
You can see how bad these guys want it. A race to the line.
For us, racing is not for the trophies or the glory. We compete because it makes everything we do faster, more durable, and tested to a higher standard. For S&S, racing is the ultimate in proven performance, and we've been proving it since 1958.
Tomorrow night, 9:00. New show.
That's right.
So if you're trying to figure out what that was, tune in tomorrow night for the pilot episode of Torque, premiering here on Source Media. Chris Cowan, you want to tell us some more about that, or you want to surprise everybody tomorrow?
Oh, it's a cool thing. Some guys I know that are super into the performance end of things here in motorcycling are fired up. And, you know, when we all came back from Daytona, we noticed that was one of the most energetic and fastest growing segments. And, you know, they need something like that for that community. So we're happy that we're getting it going.
I know Gumby's super excited about it. So he'll be watching on the East Coast, the West Coast, and in Hawaii, I bet. So that should be pretty good. We're brought to you tonight from the Retro Cycle Studio here in Boonton, New Jersey. And I'd like to thank our sponsors, Banks Gas, and a whole bunch of other people up there in the scroll above my shoulder right here. So take a look and watch, you know, pay attention to those sponsors there. They're helping keeping us going and bringing this to you for free, non-subscription on the Source Media networks. And if you want to sponsor our show, reach out to us and we'd be glad to bring you on. Like and share. Jason, what do you have to say about that?
I love it. I love our sponsors.
And what do we do about like and share?
We always get and we mash that share button.
We mash that share button. Absolutely. So tell all your friends, tell them to come join us. Join in on the chat. I see a lot of our old friends here. David Crum, Mike Draco, Rob Dorr is out there. I can't scroll back and see some others. Dennis Stauber. Where's Poppy? I don't see Poppy out there yet, but I'm sure he's here somewhere. He's always here with us. So, Jason, you want to bring our next guest? You want to introduce our guest?
Yeah. So our guest for tonight, I'm super excited about this. Really, we should have planned to have him on for the next 3 weeks because his resume just dictates that. I got a chance to kind of meet Jeff on the last cross-country chase. Got to know a little bit about him and his stories. Unbelievable stuff. And I can't wait to sit down and chat with him tonight. So with that, let's bring him in.
Hey, there he is. Hey, Jeff.
Hello, everybody.
How you doing, bud?
I'm good. How are you guys doing? Can you hear me good?
Real good.
Okay,
good.
cool. Hi,
So
Jason.
where are you coming to us from tonight, Jeff?
This little town in North Texas called Dallas.
A little burg.
Yeah. A wee little place.
Cool.
Yeah, I live in Dallas. My main place is in Dallas. Yeah. Sorry
Tell
about the
us a
neon
little-
sign behind me.
Jason, go ahead.
Oh, sorry. My connection's a little shaky. So anyway, so you're in Dallas. You have a shop in Dallas, correct?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Let's start out on that and talk a little bit about the shop. You know,
Well-
when you started the shop and kind of what you do.
Man, I'm not very good at all this. I'll try to chronicle the best I can. I bought a building back when I worked in the car dealership. I was a mechanic in a dealership, and I started working on people's just whatever somebody wanted me to do that I could figure out how to do. I painted some stuff, made some things, and what happened was I kind of was running my little shop as I was working at the dealership, and I ended up getting a job on a Top Fuel team. If everybody knows what that is, on a big race team. And actually, the same guy that talked me into running the chase he was my roommate back then, and he is who got me the job on the Top Fuel team. His name's Keith Martin at Big D Cycle.
Oh, right.
Oh boy.
So your shop started out back in the day. You were mostly working on cars, or?
No, mostly motorcycles, because it was pretty small. I bought a very small building, a little 800 square foot building. So I did a lot of motorcycle stuff, from paint work to a little bit of making some things, fabricating stuff, doing some wiring, stuff like that. And I was just doing that stuff while I was working at the dealership. And then once I got a job on the race team, I had to put all my effort into the racing stuff. And after traveling on a top field team for 4 years, I thought, man, I'm just going to try to run the shop. And I had done a few car commercials here and there. And I just kind of made the shop sort of this entity that would just, anything that needed to be done on a car, truck, or motorcycle, we would make it happen. And I don't even know how the hell it all happened. I'm not very good at explaining it.
Let's talk about the car commercials. How'd you get involved in that? How did that come about? And what did you do?
Well, the original stuff was some, say, music videos that were shot around Dallas. That I had two motorcycles, my 71 FLH and my original Harley Davidson, which was a Sportster. And they're really pretty bikes. And some people would want to shoot, say, some music videos around Dallas, and they knew that I had these bikes. And they'd ask, "Hey, can you bring the bike over?" And a couple times I was asked to ride the bike in a music video. And then this stuff was happening as I was working on the top field team and working at the dealership. And when I went off and worked on that race team for 4 years, and when I came back, people were hitting me up like, "Hey, we need somebody to ride a motorcycle into this building or something." And it's a non-union job, and we'll pay you a little bit of this or that. And I would do these things. And then somebody called me about a car commercial and asked me to drive a truck in a truck commercial. And at the same time, people were asking if they could rent my motorcycles for things, or my, I had a hot rod pickup that I still have. And I don't know, it just sort of morphed its way into, those were the people that were asking for things, and I could do it. I used to race off-road. I used to race an off-road buggy. And so I guess I was pretty good at the stuff on the dirt. And so I did a lot of truck commercials and things like that. I don't know. I raced motocross too, interminced in all this time. So I did a lot of motorcycle things. Does that make sense?
Let's talk about young Jeff. How did you get involved with all this stuff? I see you were racing at around 12 years old, and I got some notes here, but if you don't touch on the notes that I have, I'll mention some of this stuff. But tell us how you got started with all this stuff.
Well, I had a motocross bike and a stuff when it was actually 12 or 13. I got my first dirt bike and that sort of thing. And I lived out in Odessa, Texas, and my stepdad didn't feel like driving me to school. So I just rode this Enduro I had to school, and I would go to the motocross track and things. And somewhere when I was a junior in high school, my grandfather passed away, and he left each one of us $3,000. And much to my mom's chagrin, I was like, I'm going to buy a chassis of a race car. And she's like, you need to save your money. But the stipulation was I was allowed to do whatever I wanted with my $3,000. So I bought a race car chassis, an off-road race buggy, and I had some friends, and we put a motor together, and I went and tried to race, and I didn't know what the hell I was doing, and we didn't do very good. And that was young high school age Jeff was doing that sort of thing. And I'm probably skipping over a lot of things, but when I graduated high school, I really needed to get to work because I didn't have any money. I didn't have any family that was paying for anything. So
because you spent the $3,000.
Yeah, I had $3,000, and I spent it and every penny that I had made to that date and threw that on that race car, which was I didn't even have a way to get the race car to the track. My stepdad had to lend me a trailer and a truck. So it was an off-road buggy with a Volkswagen engine.
Tell us about your brief brush with the law riding this bike back and forth to school.
Well, in Odessa, it's an oil field community, if anybody even knows what it is, out in the middle of nowhere. I a couple times on my way to school, because my stepdad was just like, just get yourself to school. I don't want to deal with it. I think I was 13. I think I was 13 when I was riding this thing in the 9th grade to school, and the police would pull me over, this happened a few times, and a policeman pulled me over. Hey, you don't look old enough to ride this bike. And I'm like, no. And he's like, so you don't have a license? And I'd say no. And he'd say, well, he'd pull some little notebook out of his pocket and say, give me your dad's name and number. I'm going to call him when I get off today and make sure he knows you're riding this motorcycle to school. And that was all that would happen. And I didn't think anything of it. But then when I talked to people later on, they're like, what, the policeman would just write down your name and he would call my stepdad, and my stepdad would say, yeah, I'm letting him ride it. Okay, just as long as you know he's riding it, I guess. That was kind of it was, when I look back on it, it does seem kind of strange that the police didn't even care, And I'll tell you one thing, I couldn't park it on school property. The principal at my school, I think told me I couldn't have it on school property because I wasn't old enough to drive. So I knew a guy that lived across the street, and I would just park it in his garage and walk across the street to school. That was how I got to school back then.
One of our regular viewers, Nancy Weems, is asking a question. She wants to know what kind of racing you were doing with that buggy.
Oh, SCORE, Southern California Off-Road Racing. It was class, I think it was class 1. It was short course off-road racing. It's a little Volkswagen motor. It had to have a single port. It was pretty much the lowest line you could have of a race car. It was a little seat.
What is short course for our viewers who don't know?
Oh, I'm sorry. Well, everybody's heard of like the Baja 1000 or the Mint 400. That's a endurance race. In Texas, we had short course races, so it'd be a 5-lap race of a small short course. No chase vehicles or anything like that. Strictly for the very low budgeted the short course race stuff. Good fun. Oh yeah, I see you're scrolling some photos of different racing there. My buggy was actually a race buggy, a single seat race buggy, but you had to use a Volkswagen front end, a twin I-beam front. I said it wrong. Sorry. The stock Volkswagen front end and a Volkswagen motor. Cool. Very old school.
Wow, that's way cool.
So it's desert racing, basically.
Yeah, it was desert racing. I'm sorry, I'm not explaining it correctly.
No, that's fine. It's fine. It all works out. So
I don't mess up too bad.
Are you nervous? Don't be nervous. We're just bullshitting here.
No, not at all. Not nervous. I just
You're an actor, for God's sakes.
No, not nervous at all. I just don't want to mess up and not explain things correctly, I guess.
I'm afraid to yell action, Jeff. You're going to take off being a stunt man, but we'll get to that in a little while.
I'm out of here. I gotta go.
Jason, you got a question you want to ask?
Yeah, let's migrate. Since we talked about kind of the younger years with the small bikes, let's talk about the first big boy bike that you got.
Cool. Yeah. I definitely had a few bikes in between that. That was a DT100, a Yamaha DT100 was my first bike that I had. I guess in the 80s or the mid 80s, 85 or so, I really wanted a Harley Davidson, of course, because Harley Davidsons are cool, and I really like the stray cats and stuff like that. The very 50s looking stuff, but the only thing I could afford was a 1974 Sportster that a guy had ridden off a pier and into a river, and I bought it from him. He pulled it out of actually, I didn't buy it from the guy. I bought it from his friend. He pulled it out of the river, and I bought that bike, and I got it all running. And I actually rode it to Daytona, I think in 86 from Washington, D.C. And I had that bike for a year, and I really wanted a big bike really bad. And I looked in the paper every day, because back then you had to look in the paper, and I found a 71 FLH that was, I don't want to say basket case, but it had been all stripped down, and it was a hand shift bike and kickstart only. It had a FX primary on it, so it had no way to start. It's just the kickstart. And I went and looked at this thing, and the guy was selling it because his wife was pregnant or something like that. So that all happened in the mid 80s. I still have both those motorcycles,
Oh, no kidding.
But those are my right in the middle of the 80s.
Has it changed much from when you first got it? Or
no, they're
did you
almost
keep-
exactly. They're well, the Sportster had to do a lot of work to get it running, and
Right.
it's always been purple. It's pretty. It looks the same, just a little bit different paint job. The FLH, the 71 FLH. I had a knee surgery and I ended up putting an electric start primary on it, but it was purple back then and it has black with flames now, but it's still a hand shift bike and still a stripped down it's a really stripped down 71.
So tell us a little more about the 71, how you came to get that, the shovel.
At the time, like I say, I really like that look, a big FLH, big tire, big an older, I don't know, you know what the look is. Everybody knows what look is, but I certainly could not, fat. Yeah. I could not afford
it's like
a
the new
panhead.
Harley that just came out.
Yeah, exactly. Somebody sent me a picture of that and I couldn't afford a panhead. So I had a little bit of money saved and I really wanted an FLH so bad. And I had a girlfriend at the time who had like $500 or $1,000 saved in her account. And she said, I'll lend you the money, which I don't know why she did that, but, I had a couple thousand saved, but I just, as soon as I had 2,000 saved and she had about 500, I just was looking so hard for a bike that I could afford. And this thing popped up in the newspaper and she and I jumped on my Sportster, rode over to this guy's place. And he said he had just had it in one day and nobody could ride it because it was a hand shift and a kickstart only bike. And I mean, I probably weighed 125 pounds. I think I was only 19, and, I got on that bike and I rode it down the street and I came back. It was the first time I'd ever ridden a hand shift bike. And I was just, I got to have this bike. And this guy and I were going back and forth and I only had my 2,000 and her 500 and she lent me the money. I paid the guy and he brought it out and I made the 500 back and I paid her off within a month or so pretty quick,
Somebody wants to know if this is one of the pictures you submitted to us. It's like a front end shot of a shovel head. Is that the same bike?
Oh,
This
shoot.
one?
No, that's one of my 265 panheads. That bike belonged to the guy who taught Oliver how to that Oliver apprenticed under. He was a tattoo artist and I always wanted a 65 and he had one and I bought it from him. And all my bikes look the same pretty much though. But yeah, that's my number 165 panhead. I have another one too.
So let's talk about your friendship with Oliver. You referenced Oliver. This is Oliver Peck.
Oh
Tell us a
no,
little
I
bit about-
opened the door to Oliver Peck.
Yeah. Well, you kicked it open and I stuck my foot in there. So
Yeah, there's us. There's a picture of the two of us going to lunch. We try to go to lunch every day that we're in the same city because we both work. We used to work in LA a lot too, but he and I have been friends for 30 years, actually. Yeah. And there it is. I can't shake him now. We're there for life, I guess.
this is, well, he's one of those friends you're stuck with for life, right?
Yeah, I swear. I had no idea what was happening when I first met him because, we were both just dumbass kids back then. I worked on the race team full time back then and I had my little shop and somebody gave him my number to do some work on this old car and he just showed up one day and actually I had a friend in town and I asked him to give her a ride to where I lived at the time and he gave her a ride and once he knew where I lived he just showed up every day. He showed up at my shop every day for lunch and showed up at my house when he was done working at 2:00 and
that's great.
He's still coming over for lunch.
Chris, bring that picture back up because that picture is kind of interesting. That, if you're familiar with the photography by Danny Lyon, it's very reminiscent of those old photographs that he did on the Outlaw Biker series. Was this shot composed or is this just something somebody grabbed?
I have to give a shout out to Aaron Finnan, who is Oliver's, I guess, I don't know if you want to call him assistant. He does things for Oliver. He runs things. And he would come to lunch with us a lot. He has a motorcycle or two. And he ran one of the tattoo shops in Los Angeles. And he took 1 million photos all the time. And Oliver and I were waiting for Aaron to come. And I turned around to look where Aaron was. And he was just behind us. And he took a shot of us. And like I say, I should give a shout out to Aaron Finnan. Aaron Finnan made a book of just photographs of me for some reason. And I have one of those somewhere. But I think that photograph is in it. That's
Can
a
we
cool
get it on
shot.
Amazon or Barnes and Noble?
I don't know. I think you could buy it through Oliver's Cheap Thrills or something. I have no idea how you could get that book, but I think Oliver bought 10 of them originally. He's hoarding them.
Really?
But
Nice.
yeah, that's a really cool photo. Actually, I love that photo. I guess that's when I was.
It is really cool. Like I said, I don't know if you're familiar with the I think it's called The Bikers by Danny Lyon.
Yes, I definitely have heard of that.
Yeah, and I think our crack media guy running the controls there may be able to find a shot from the cover of that later in the show somewhere. But anyway, tell us a little more. So you got involved in racing in what, NHRA?
Yes, sir. NHRA Top Fuel Racing. I mean, I went straight to the top. Keith Martin, who owns Big D Cycle, back then he was just a mechanic at Big D Cycle. He introduced me to a guy who built race car chassis, and he said, "Man, this my roommate. He's a transmission mechanic up at a dealership, and he wants to get into racing." And I had a few interviews, but since my family wasn't in racing or anything like that, I was just a mechanic at a dealership that did a little motorcycle racing. It was very hard to do. But Keith Martin got me an interview on Gene Snow's Top Fuel car, and they were from Fort Worth. There was a lot of Top Fuel cars and funny cars around Texas, and I got an interview, and I ended up leaving the dealership and went straight to work on a Top Fuel car. I did the clutch on a fuel car.
Cool.
And then right after that, you ended up doing your own race team then, huh?
Yeah, what happened? It's so hard for me to explain all this because I worked 4 years on a Top Fuel team, and I had already bought my little building, and I thought, man, I'm going to give a go at my own business. And what happened was I would just do anything on some race teams would send me things to build or do body panels on old cars. I did all this crazy stuff. And that was when I started getting hit up a lot for the film business things. And I would be asked to come work on a car commercial or I worked on the Walker Texas Ranger show and rode a motorcycle on some things, and just things were just kind of happening so fast. I didn't even know what was going on. And I went back to pretty much racing motocross stuff on my own. And I had a little help from one of the motorcycle shops here. And I was doing that a lot. And one of the guys that I rode with, he wanted to get into road racing, and he and I decided we'd partner up where I'd do all the labor and he'd pay the money. And we started a very small road racing team, and he lost interest, I guess, after a year or two. And I hung in there and bought as much out of him as I could. I mean, I had no money back then. I don't even know what the hell I was doing, and I ended up buying an 18-wheeler, for our race hauler, and I was in so deep. I mean, I had to stick with it because I had to make the money racing, or I was gonna sink. And I just went through some race series, and I ended up in the NASCAR Craftsman Truck Series.
Oh wow!
And yeah, I mean that was as far as I made. We did that for 3 years. What's funny is I saw one of your advertisements was S&S, and S&S bought my race car hauler, and I think they still have it.
Oh, no kidding.
Their big black hauler is my old race car hauler.
Oh no.
So cool.
I just saw Mike Bruzzo said I'm a great guy. Thank you, Mike.
Yeah, Mike wanted to say hi. I wanted to break in before, but you were on a good roll there. I didn't want to interrupt you, But yeah, Mike wanted to shout out to you.
Yeah,
I want to switch gears a little bit because I think it's a little important, and this was something that wasn't actually even in our notes for the show for the pre-interview, but it's something that I know and that I've read and heard other stories that you've told on podcasts of what happened to you, and I think it was like year 2000 or something like that, and I think you were racing motocross.
Yes, sir. Yeah, It's nothing to brag about, I guess. But yeah, I had I was pretty, I used to hang it out there pretty far, and I like to do some freestyle stuff. And I was practicing at a motocross track, and I had a spinal cord injury. I left the track in a helicopter, and
Oh boy.
yeah, it was a mess. I mean, it was years it ruined my stunt driving career. I lost that, just all the jobs just disappeared right away, because I was laying in a hospital for 3 months, and that was a mess. That was, you definitely, you kind of, everything in the world changes when you can't even go to the bathroom on your own. I was paralyzed, and it was a mess.
So not to dwell on it, but let's stay on that for a second. So what was your mindset at that point, and how aggressive were you in trying to rehabilitate yourself?
Oh, I didn't know what had happened. I woke up a few days later, and actually one of the drivers of one of the top fuel teams that I worked on was leaning over me, and I thought, what the hell are you doing here? You live 5 hours away from here. And he said, well, I came yesterday. And I'm like, I didn't understand it. I'd lost a few days, when I woke up. And he told me, he said, you're paralyzed, and you're never going to walk again. And I'm like, man, that's not good, is it? And he said, no, it isn't. And then he told me that this guy, Gene Gaddy, who was a top fuel builder, he built top fuel cars that I knew very well. He taught me a lot. He said, Gene's in the waiting room. And I thought, oh, I am completely, this is a mess. If Gene Gaddy came here, then I'm a mess, because he's the kind of guy that just wouldn't be involved in it. He would, a month later be like, yeah, I heard about that. I'm like, he's in the waiting room. I thought I'm in a mess. And then Oliver, of course, came running in when I woke up, and he's like, I've called your dad. I don't want to call your mom. I don't know what to do. Your dad's on his way here. And you're never going to walk again. And I thought, this is not good for me. And I thought, you sure I'm not, 6 months from now, I'm not going to be good? And they said, no. He said no. And then one of the surgeons came in and said, I had a spinal cord injury, and that there was, I think at the time, he said I had something like a 12% chance of being able to get around in a walker, with the braces on my legs or something like that, that I was definitely never going to have the life that I had before, which he's right. I mean, I thought, this is not good for me at all. And laying there in that hospital bed, and I was in that, and they moved me around, but for 3 months in the hospital, it's all I thought about was I had to get up. And I at the time, I really wanted to just be able to get to welding again, or get the tools out of the top of my toolbox, because I have a really big toolbox. Well, I had a big one then. And
we have a picture of it. We'll bring that up in a little bit. We'll roll through some photos, but keep going.
Well, I just thought I need to be able to at least work on something. The building I was in wasn't paid for yet. I think I'd been in it about 8 years, and it was a 10-year mortgage. And I thought, man, I got to be able to pay for the building, and I'm not going to be able to stunt driver anymore. I'm not going to be able to race anymore. So there's no money coming in there, but I could still weld or do things like that. And I had one guy that worked for me in the shop, and he stayed working in the shop and took care of my dogs. And it was just a mess. I don't even know how to explain it. And I decided while I was in the hospital, I know this is going to sound kind of morbid. I don't know if I've said this, and if you know this or not, Jason, but I said to myself, if I can't get the tools out of the top of my toolbox by my birthday, which was October 2nd, and I got injured January 7th, at least get the tools out of the top of my toolbox, then I'm going to go ahead and do myself in, because I really didn't want to live a life where I couldn't ride motorcycles. I couldn't race anymore. I couldn't be a stunt driver. I didn't want, that wasn't in the, I didn't want to do that. And I talked to Oliver about it, and he knew that was the deal. And that I wasn't going to, as long as I get the tools out of the top of my toolbox, it meant I could at least work in the shop. And I figured a way to get out of the wheelchair and lock my legs, by about my birthday, I could do that. And it was just a mess. There was so much rehab. I had to go to rehab 5 days a week once I got out of the hospital. And it was just a complete disaster of
What
took
was it
forever.
that turned everything around? Was there some swelling, or how did that? That's pretty interesting. How did that whole thing turn around for you? Was
Well,
there, you know?
it's one of those things that people don't understand. It isn't like boom, one day everything was different. When you injure your spinal cord, I had what's called an incomplete injury, which everything from the injury down doesn't work, and there's swelling around your spinal cord, and that's how. And they don't know how much return, they call it return, you're going to get until say months and months later, and they keep checking and see if you can make anything move, see if your brain can talk to any part of your body. And I refused to pretty much take any drugs other than I think I took steroids because they said that would make the swelling go down. And
Right.
and I just kept, I got to move something. And I'd try to move something and nothing would move. And I did every therapy that they could do. And somewhere in about 2 months in, one of my therapists came in and they would always check to see if I could move one of my toes, push it one way or the other way, because nothing else moved. And of course, I had no control of my bowel or my bladder or anything, because that's the farthest thing down your spinal cord. And one day, a therapist said, I think you're firing a muscle. It's not really moving, but I can think it's firing one of your toes. So just all I did was anytime I was awake, I was just trying to move my toes and trying to move them. And a month or so later, one toe would move a little bit the one way and one toe would move the other way, just a very little bit. And I just kept working at it. And every day I wanted to just try to get something more that I could do on my own, and it was forever. It was years before I could even walk up a step without my friends helping me. Like my friends would come with me places, even once I could get out of the wheelchair, and they would have to help me up a step because I didn't have the muscles to get up steps. I mean, years later,
That's amazing. I saw you out at Ole, and I would never know.
Well, thanks. I try to hide the way I walk because I do have drop. I have drop foot pretty bad, but I try to I try to hide it. I don't know if you say hide, but I try to walk right. Probably at the end of the day, you would have noticed if I was walking, like, man, he kind of walks kind of slow because my left leg doesn't work 100%. And I don't have the quad muscles in my leg.
You were doing great, other than not being able to push your bike up the hill. But, now we understand why you're not just lazy, you were incapacitated.
Yeah. Once Oliver was involved, I knew everybody would help Oliver push it. So it just went without me up the hill.
He's a good decoy.
He is. I mean, in every sense of the way, when I was on the chase, I was having a hard time because my kickstand messed up. It was one of the only things that I had messed up. And I have a certain way that I can kickstart a bike because I don't have all my muscles 100%. And since my kickstand was messed up, I was having a really hard time starting my bike. And luckily, David Serafin, is that his name? I think that's his name. The guy from Florida, he sent me a kickstand, and a guy in, I'm a terrible person. I don't remember his exact name. A guy in Milwaukee let me go over to his house and use his torches, and I bent my kickstand back and heat treated and put it back on my bike till I got that one from the guy in Florida, But
nice.
Yeah, I was having a hard time starting my bike when the kickstand was messed up, for sure.
David's a good guy. David and I go way back. That was fantastic that he did that.
Well, let's keep going down that road of that bike that you rode on the chase.
Yep.
Let's kind of start out there of what it is and where you acquired it.
Okay. I mean, I'll try to. Back when I lived in Washington, D.C., and I worked at the car dealership, I lived there for 4 years. I worked part-time at a motorcycle shop, and its original name was Satan Cycles. I just worked there part-time because those guys, they were really cool to me, and I was trying to build those motorcycles that I had, that FLH and stuff. So I would work there part-time to curb my habit. Well, when Keith Martin told me about the chase, I thought to myself, because of the handicap, I wanted the oldest Harley Davidson that I could get that had an oil pump, because I wanted it to have an oil pump. So I looked everywhere for a 45, a 1936 45 is what I looked for. And my buddies back at that motorcycle shop found most of a bike in Baltimore. It was not a complete bike at all. and they found it. I bought it, and I think I had to work on some car commercials, and I begged my dad to drive up to DC and get that bike for me so he could visit some of his friends, and brought it back. And so I started building it, and I was going at this like a complete professional race. I was like, this is a professional race. There's a purse involved. I got to do this right. So that guy David hooked me up with 2 gas tanks instead of a gas and an oil tank. And then I made my own oil tank so I could have a lot more mileage. I had 5 gallons of gas on that bike. And then he also sold me those ammo boxes, and I made it so the bike had an ammo box on both sides because I was going to go prepared. I had so much spare parts. I mean, this, Jason. I had so many spare parts with me on that bike.
Yeah. So we have a picture up on the screen. Tell us about this a little bit.
So I went completely overboard with the spare parts for sure. And all the tools that I used to build that bike, because I had to straighten the frame and all sorts of things. So any tool that I used to build a bike, I put purple tape on it, like a professional race car mechanic would. And I took all those tools with me, and I had spare everything. I even had a spare battery. I gave it to Sean, the guy on the Indian. I remember towards the end, but I had spare brake shoes with me. I had anything that I hand built, say a hardware washer nut. I had at least 2 of those with me. I had so much shit with me, you guys. It was unbelievable.
Matt Miller is on. He said he's sorry he missed you out at Ole, but he didn't even know you were there. But he says he said to say hi, and he still has the kickstand you gave him on the Chase.
Oh, well, that's funny because David Serafin, I don't know how to say his name. He sent me 2 kickstands, and I'm like, and then I had the one that I had straightened, and I'm like, I can't carry 3 kickstands with me. So I just, that guy, and I didn't remember his name, but one morning I'm like, I have these kickstands. I don't know what to do. I'm like, you want this thing? And I think his friends shipped a bunch of things home for me because I had so much extra stuff. I started sending things home.
You really did,
man. Look at that picture of that bike.
Yeah,
if we would have given an award for the most prepared person, you definitely would have had it.
Yeah, I mean, that 45 is loaded down. I'm surprised it could pull you. That's amazing.
It had a hard time in those mountains because I had it geared really high. In the mountains in Tennessee, oh my Lord, I thought I was going to have to get off and push it up the mountains. It was
Mike Brusso says heaviest 45 ever.
Oh, he knew it too.
Yeah,
it was insane. Yeah. And Brusso and Rod Sterling and of course Chris. The first couple nights when I was doing all my maintenance, I whipped out all my tools. And they're like, what in the hell? You have everything here. And I'm like, and I have every tool it took to build this bike. They're like, you brought, they thought it was hilarious, and I had all these tool rolls and they all fit in that bag. I took it. I think I took, oh yeah, there's a picture. That's all my tool rolls rolled out. And then those little baggies were like the little parts that I had in the, oh my God, I had everything. I literally had. I don't know what the hell I was thinking.
Jeff, let's roll through some pictures and you'll tell us about it and we'll chat some more. But let's take a look at some of the other pictures he gave us here.
Okay.
Dude, I didn't even have that many toolbox in my rolling box.
That's an older picture, but that's pretty much most all my motorcycles sitting outside them. That's where I live. That's my shop, and I live upstairs there. But
that's amazing.
Thanks.
What a nice place.
Thank you, sir. I didn't own my purple my 65, and that blue bike is actually a sparkling burgundy now. And that bike with the flames, that's my original FLH, my 71, and then my Sportster's on the end. And I have 2 of those black bikes now. And I just brought a bike.
The FLHs, don't you?
Yeah, and I just brought one back from Ole.
Beautiful too. Nice bike.
Original paint.
Oh, did you get that one I seen in Oliver's trailer? It was a burgundy FLH, wasn't it? 71.
Oh, he's big on the sparkling burgundy.
Yeah, Oliver. Oliver bought 3 sparkling burgundy bikes, and I bought one original paint black one. Look at that fool. I mean, he just showed up on the chase. That's our relationship to a T. Me taking everything completely seriously and him not caring one bit at all what's going on at any moment. That's us.
I thought that was Mutton. I thought that was Mutton Jeff right there.
Man, you know what's funny is we've known each other for 30. Neither one of us. When I met him, I didn't even have a place to take a shower. I had my little apartment. Then I bought the bigger building, and I would just go to his house. It was down the street to take a shower, and he never cleaned his bathtub. It was black. The whole bathtub was black. He never cleaned it, and it was so gross, you know.
And I can see you're a bit of a neat freak, huh?
I'm insane. You know, I hated taking a shower at his place. It was so disgusting. I mean, he never once cleaned it, you know. Yeah, I am a neat freak, and he's not. In fact, at the Fredericksburg thing, he took his own truck and trailer down there, and I just took my truck, and I went over there, and I saw the inside of his trailer, and I'm like, there was shit just strewn everywhere, and I was like, I just kind of chuckled. He's like, what? And I'm like, you know, I could never operate like that. Like, it would just drive me insane. And he's like, that's why we're such a great couple. He's like, we're just a great pair. It's just great that we found each other, you know? And we go on these trips and we take my truck, and I'm like picking up after him all the time. Like, he's just got shit everywhere. Just stuff's going every direction. I'm trying to put things away, and he's making a mess. And, you know, we have 2 different personalities. Oh, there's my toolbox.
So tell us about this toolbox. Because it's something special about this, right?
Well, when I bought it, that was the biggest, if you want to use Snap-on has a word for it, single toolbox that they could put together. You know, that's not 2 toolboxes or 3 toolboxes next to each other. That's one toolbox. And the one I had before was like that. And I upgraded to that.
How long is that box?
22 feet long and 7.5 feet tall.
Wow.
Okay, so how does one transport that toolbox?
That it doesn't. That the Snap-on people had to deliver it in an 18-wheeler, and the guy that delivered it, he said he delivered all their big boxes, and I had the biggest box, and the only one that was going to be like that at the time. I'm sure people have figured out ways to bolt things together differently. I'm actually sitting right above where that toolbox is right now.
How do you get that off the truck?
I wasn't here. I was off working on a movie, I think, when that showed up, but a forklift, and they take it off the truck, and then the Snap-on guys put it together here at my shop. I wasn't here for that.
And why do you have a toolbox that big?
Because as we spoke before, I like to be prepared.
Well, I asked dumb questions.
No, it's not. You can see my career has spanned over I worked in a body shop to start off with, and a car dealership, and then top fuel race teams. And then of course I went to road racing and NASCAR. And then now all this car, commercial, and movie stuff. I pretty much have to be able to work on anything that's a 1902 car, and, you know, an early Harley Davidson all the way. I mean, I'm working on Oliver's 1916 motorcycle all the way to a 2022 now, you know, car that hasn't even been produced yet, or a race car. That's all my cars.
So you have the ultimate set of tools, is what you're saying.
I don't know. My Snap-on man, I always say, man, do you think I'm a big sucker or something? And he says, no, I just think you're the most prepared guy we got, you know, but
that's cool.
And I buy
so what are we looking at here now?
That's my personal cars. By the way, I do not own a personal car that was made past 1970. That's that yellow Roadrunner. And I don't own a personal car with air conditioning either. Those are my 6 personal cars. And that van is the Satan Cycles van that was Satan Cycles' van in 1970 till 2014. Wow. And they gave it to me. I redid it.
There's I see a gas pump.
Yeah, I haven't hooked that up yet. I buy my own gas because everything, of course, you know, with ethanol, and all my cars are all carbureted. So I'm gonna hook that gas pump up to my gas jugs, but I just haven't done it yet. It's just sitting there now.
Oh, okay.
And that's my pickup that I used to drive to work every day. that's been in a million photo shoots and commercials.
Okay,
And
so
my
now
Mercury-
the third one in from there. What are we looking at there? What is that?
That's a 51 Mercury that I bought for $500 from a guy that was just a complete disaster. Somebody had stolen all the parts off of, and I've had that car for, I think, since 1994. I built it in 94.
Such a cool car.
That is a cool
Very
car. And I
cool.
like those big Chryslers. I have two Chryslers, a 4-door and a 2-door. And then my Roadrunner, which was a customer's car, and his wife wanted him to get rid of it. It was going to go to Mecum Auction. And he wanted me to make sure it was running good because he stored all of his cars, and I couldn't let him sell it, to tell you the truth. That car was so nice. So that's my least favorite car, is the Roadrunner.
Nice car, man. Beautiful.
That
What's your favorite to drive?
Of my cars?
Yeah.
That's a dumb question too.
All 6 of them. I rotate them. I love.
Hey, at
all
least
of them.
I have video tonight. I'm sorry, I had to.
That's like asking what's your favorite daughter or what's your favorite kid? How do you answer that?
Yeah, it's impossible. Those are my kids. I don't have any kids. I've never been married. That's me on a movie. I was a taxi driver in a movie, and there's
You
me.
talking to me? Taxi driver? You talking to me?
You talking
doing
to
your
me?
De Niro?
Yeah, and that's me in Ford versus Ferrari. That's me playing
Nice.
It's like I went back in time to play myself in a movie. Actually,
Yeah,
Thank
pretty
you,
much,
Robin.
right?
yeah, I did. It was crazy. That's kind of a highlight of my career right there, probably.
Do you have a speaking role?
I did have some lines, but I don't know if they ever made the movie. I've had speaking roles in other stuff, but I think on Ford versus Ferrari, I was mic'd up and I said a lot of things, but I'm not sure if it all made the movie.
Cool. That's very
Let's talk
cool
about.
stuff.
Let's just since we brought it up, I want to just for a few minutes talk about Ford versus Ferrari, of what the experience was, and because it was such a great show. Just kind of a quick experience working on that thing.
Well, I'm a stunt driver only. I drive cars. I drive a lot of big trucks and motorcycles. And one of my buddies, Danny Downey, he had said, man, there's this big show that's about to start filming, and it's a period piece and this and that and the other thing. And I started to get bummed because I heard who the stunt coordinator was, and I had worked for him. I had known him a little while, and I had worked for him at least once or twice. I worked for him on Baby Driver. And I thought, man, he didn't call me. He probably figures I'm busy on car commercials or something. And then I was at a Social Distortion show one night with Oliver and some people, and I get this text message. Hey, Robert Nagel wants to know if you're available Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday. And this was like a Friday night. And I said, sure, I sure am. Where? And they said Los Angeles. And it was his assistant that was sending me this. And I thought, man, I'm going to get to work on this show. And I went out there, and I thought, well, I'm only going to be on for a few days. That's nice enough of him to have me on for a few days, and really cool. And I show up, and then all of a sudden there's all this talk about these pit stops had to happen. And Nagel wanted a stunt person to do the pit stops. And the director and the AD and those guys were all talking about, well, this guy has to look like he's from the 50s and 60s. This guy has to look like a hot rodder from California. And there was this conversation going on at one point, and I'm standing in this big hangar because my job for that day was to pull one of the GT40s into the airplane hangar, that is Shelby's shop. It's supposed to be at the airport. And I'm listening to this, and he's got to look like this certain look, and the director's like, I don't know. Are you sure you have one of these drivers or whatever that can do a pit stop? And Nagel, the stunt coordinator, is like, this guy did pit stops for a living. He is a race car mechanic. They're like, I don't know about this guy. And then everybody turns around and looks at me, and I'm just standing there, like, hi. and the director's like, is this your guy? And he's like, yeah. And he's like, that's him. He's perfect. He's exactly what I want. And then they send me back to my trailer or something somewhere. And then Nagel's assistant comes and says, well, are you busy the next 3 months? And I was like, I thought I was on for 3 days. And she's like, well, we have to shoot all these pit stops that are at the Daytona race and that are at the Le Mans race. I'm like, well, I have car commercials to do, you know, and I'm thinking, but I can't say no, you know, I have to do this. And so I explained, I knew of a couple car commercials that I had to be in, and that I had to leave to go do. And they said that was cool. And then there it was. I was on for all those months. All the parts that I was on filmed in Los Angeles. So that's good for me. I have a little garage out there and a motorcycle. So I went to work every day for all those months. It was a great experience. And Nagel was so cool to have me on. And all my friends, all the drivers were really close friends of mine. We were all on Baby Driver together. I shouldn't say all. A lot of us were on Baby Driver together. And a couple of them are really close friends of mine. And so it was really great to be with those guys that whole time. The night shoots were rough. It was really rough. There's a pit stop scene that happens in the rain, and that thing was filmed for 2 weeks straight. And I had to get rained on and do those pit stops, like what felt like 40 of those pit stops a night. And it was wearing me out. You know, I mean, because back then they had to take the wheels off with a lead hammer. You know, you had to it had knockoffs. You couldn't use an air tool. And I'm like, man, I used air tools when I was doing this. You know, I'm over here with this hammer, beating this thing off and putting it on, and beating it off and putting it on. But and in the rain, it was miserable at night, but it is all worth it. All in the end, is so cool. Good stuff.
Yeah. Well, that's a very cool story.
Well, thanks. I think I came and did the chase right after that. I think I started building that bike right after that happened. I don't really recall the timeline. Oh, there it is.
It sounds like you didn't really have much time in between, and that you kind of put that bike together pretty fast.
I did, and it was very hard, and you know, like I said, the kickstand gave me the most trouble. And what was funny is I built the bike on my stand, you know, on my lift, and I got to the end. I'm like, I haven't found because I wanted all American made stuff, or you know, I only like American made stuff, and I never did find an American made kickstand. So I bought an aftermarket one and put it on, and the damn thing bent. And the only other real problem I had was your rules said I had to have a mirror. So I bought an aftermarket mirror and stuck it on, and it fell off about day 3. The only 2 things that went wrong with that bike were 2 things that weren't made in America.
That's kind of crazy.
Let's talk a little bit more about the chase. I understand that you had a certain attitude about the quizzes, which is always a topic of conversation when we're talking about the chase.
Well, it's funny because a lot of people had a bad attitude about the quizzes, and my friend Keith Martin, as we spoke earlier, he was on it, and he didn't like the quizzes, and I heard a bunch of mumblings, and I thought that the quizzes were I liked them. I didn't do very good on them. When I went into it thinking this is going to be a walk in the park, they're going to ask, you know, what was the first year panhead or something. You know, like I thought these questions were going to be easy, and they weren't easy at all. But I thought it was a good idea. If that was your idea, Jason, I think it was great because the chase that race, the chase should have been an experience instead of just jumping on your bike and going as fast as you can, which there were a few people that did that. In fact, I bumped into at least one of them in Oli. And, you know, those guys weren't paying attention or anything. And it's part of the experience to learn about where you'd been. And I liked the questions. I wish I'd have done better. And if I was to be able to do another chase, I know that I would study up on where the geography and where we were. You know, I read up a little bit before I even went and paid more attention. And I did, correct me if I'm wrong, Jason, I think on the scrolls, is that what we call them? The map, the scroll? I don't know what you call them.
They're the Dead Sea Scrolls.
The scrolly thing. I guess the things that are on the quiz about the geography, there were kind of clues on the scrolls, if I remember right. And that was something I should have done, was pull my scroll out every night and look through it for the next day's quiz. You know, like the spaceship house that was in Georgia. One of the questions was how many legs were on it. And it was a picture. There was a little hand-drawn picture of it. I don't know, if you paid attention to what you're doing, you would do good on it. Who got the most?
Absolutely. And why I put that together. It's like you said, I wanted people to pay attention of the route and the surroundings around you, and to learn the history of where we're going and all that kind of stuff, because we really, really go to neat places and see some really cool things. And, you know, just being involved with the Cannonball like I have been, and just witnessing firsthand of how people ride. And I wanted to take them out of that a little bit and maybe get them a little bit more comfortable on the road, because I think a lot of people tend to overthink a lot of times with these old motorcycles. So it's like they're only tuned into their motorcycle, and they're only tuned into the, 20 feet in front of them, and I wanted to broaden their horizons a little bit on that.
Yeah, I think it was, in my opinion, it was a great idea. Plus, if you're gonna have a purse, you're gonna have to figure a way for somebody to do better than someone else, or there's a bunch of people made all the miles. I liked it. I didn't do very good on the test, but I liked it. I thought it was a great idea, because if all you're gonna do is race as fast as you can, then you might as well just go down to Daytona and do 2,000 miles on the racetrack. If you're not going to pay attention where you're at, right? It was awesome. I thought that was awesome. I wish I'd have paid better attention. I had never done the Cannonball or anything like that. My
Jeff,
mindset of racing was.
You were going to ask who did the best on is. I thought you were going to ask a question. Did you want to know who did the best? I don't know if I was going to ask it. I remember somebody did really good on the quizzes, and what's his face, the winner, number 99, who has always invited me to be able to stay at his place in LA, and I saw him fly by me on the 5 one day when I was in LA. What is his name?
Todd
the winner.
Cameron.
Todd, yeah. One day I was driving up the 5 right by my little garage, and I saw this. I kind of felt the motorcycle go by me, an old motorcycle. I looked over and I saw number plate 99. I'm like, that's Todd, and I called him immediately. But he must have done good on the quizzes, right? But he had a good handicap because he was riding a really small bike.
Right.
Yeah.
Wasn't it Guilfoyle? Was Guilfoyle the winner?
Yeah. So Jim Guilfoyle, he was the winner of, answered the most questions correctly, I guess.
Other than Doug Wathke, who wasn't allowed to win, right?
Exactly. Yeah, I think Doug actually had 2 or 3 more questions more than, it might have even been more than that. So, but nobody ever scored a perfect test score. There was always something that somebody missed. So,
speaking of dumb questions, I
thought they were going to be easy. I thought you were going to ask, I literally thought there was going to be like a question like, what was the first year of a knucklehead or something? Or those questions were not easy at all. But that's good.
Well, a lot of it was common knowledge, but most people didn't know what to expect anyway, because, it was really new on everybody. And, like I said, nobody knew what to expect or what I was going to throw at them.
I liked it. So, I heard a bunch of, we didn't know it was going to be this. I knew it was going to be test questions. It isn't like it was a surprise that there was going to be test questions. It's all part of the thing,
it just made the scores change every day too, so it was fun watching the guys in the morning be like, oh shit, I went to 23rd place, I was in 5th. And
yeah, I know. I dropped down because of my test scores. Yeah, it was a bummer.
Some camaraderie.
Guys, we're coming up on about half past the hour, almost an hour and a half into the show. And man, I could talk with you all night, Jeff. There's just so much more to talk about. So,
well, thanks.
Maybe you come back with us at some point.
I will. Anytime. Anytime.
Before we let you go, though, you said if you get to do the chase again. So I know your schedule. We know that your schedule is not going to allow you to do that this year. But are you planning to do a chase in the future or the Cannonball?
I don't think I would ever run the Cannonball because I don't have anything that old, and that is a lot of days. I would have to. That's a lot of days. I missed 2 Ford commercials during the chase, which was pretty rough for me. I'd have friends cover for me. But I would love to do the chase again. I wanted to do it this year, and I thought about it, and I thought, man, maybe I'll just put all my effort into this. But I was a little bit leery of missing another a car commercial or two, and then I have one happening right then and there. I think maybe also I when I originally asked, I asked a bunch of guys if they were going to do it. I think Russo and maybe Chris and Chris originally said he wasn't going to, and I asked Keith Martin and he said he wasn't going to, but then I thought, well, then I guess those guys aren't, and I'm really going to stuff for time. And now all those guys are doing it, and I'm the one that took a job, so I can't do it. So I kind of messed up a little bit.
Right.
You know, I think I would like.
I mean, this one was short notice, and you know, I mean, it's tough to schedule when it is a little bit more short notice. I know we are going to announce the next one here fairly soon, so people can start planning for that one, which will actually be next year in 22.
There you go. So you heard it here tonight.
I will say I really wish that I could do it. In fact, the other day, right before I left to go to Ole, I pulled my 45 out. It started on the first kick, and I'm like, maybe I can give that commercial to somebody else and I'll go do it, you know, but man, I'm afraid I'll fail on all the test questions. And I saw a lot of people are on the chase and Ole, it seems like everybody's doing it. I think everybody but me.
Well, it's not about winning either, is it?
I don't know. I really wanted to do better. I wanted to do really good. I met a lot of cool people. I mean, I'm still talk to. Do you remember Tim McIntyre, that big old guy that had the Indian?
Yeah, yeah.
You know, he quit his job of 30 plus. I might be exaggerating. 30 years. He's been a machinist at this one place. He quit his job to do the chase.
Wow, that's dedication.
Yeah. I mean,
I was like, whoa, that's crazy. But he was ready to retire anyway.
All right, real quick. Todd Cameron says, Jeff, make sure to stop by next time you're in LA. Great show tonight. You need to ride the chase again. Great riding with you.
Todd is so cool. Todd is he's a good guy. He's a good guy.
Well, Jason, you got anything else? Jeff, I'm going to say goodnight.
Yeah. Let's end on my
your usual question
that I always ask. Jeff, what can we expect from Jeff Milburn over the next year? What's in your next immediate plans?
My immediate plans. I'm getting a little outside of my my norm, and in the next year I should be done building a 1973 Carmen Ghia that I'm building, and that's probably that. And I'm going to clean up that motorcycle I just got in Ole, but other than that, I don't have any. Thank you. I don't have any big plans. I have a few things to fix on that bike. I have to fix a couple little things on my other bikes, but hopefully I can get that Carmen Ghia done in this year. So I will have my first foreign car. The only car that I don't have in that lineup that was one of my personal cars was I owned a Carmen Ghia, and I sold that to buy my first Sportster. So I found a cheap Carmen Ghia, and I took the thing every nut and bolt apart, and I'm building it now as we speak. In fact, I met some guy in Ole that has Carmen Ghia parts he's going to sell me.
Yeah, the stuff you find there is unbelievable. Jeff, stay in touch with us, all right? And I know that we'll be talking to Oliver pretty soon too, so maybe you'll get an appearance on that show when we do that.
I'll do a sneak appearance on Oliver's thing.
Yeah,
absolutely. It was nice. It was nice meeting Rob and Ole. We had never met in person or anything like that. So
yeah, we had that was a really good time. I mean, I think I saw you at the beginning and end of the chase, but we didn't get to meet. So that was really nice getting to know you guys. Same.
And it's nice to see. I saw Jason in Fredericksburg with all this cool stuff he was selling.
Oh, right. Yeah, it was good. I love the Fandango.
that Fandango thing is the first year was pretty good, but this year was crazy. It was big,
insane.
I know.
Well, that's cool. Listen, thanks a lot, Jeff. Really appreciate you coming on with us and sharing your stories. And I didn't mean to get you into a Barbara Walters moment there, but that was pretty cool. Thanks for sharing that story with us.
No, that's fine. I'm very humbled that you'd even have me on your show. So thank you. I'm very flattered.
Yeah, and we're gonna have you back. So stay focused, my friend.
I will come back, guys. I will come back.
Fantastic.
See you. And bye, everybody. Thanks everybody for saying hi on the. It's hard for me to read the scroll while I'm talking to you guys.
You can go back. You can go back and watch it again and see that you did really well.
Oh, well, cool. Thanks, man. And bye, everybody, and everything.
All
Thanks.
right, Jason.
Yeah.
Jason, that was amazing, huh?
It was. I was glad that we finally got him on the show. Been waiting for a while on this one. So, of course, I waited for a while on all of them. I mean, everybody's got such great stories.
Oh, this has been a lot of fun talking to these people, man.
Yeah, absolutely. I can't wait till we can actually get to go see these people in person and
soon
see their shops and film their shops and really have a good sit down conversations and just do a little bit more documentation of man versus machine.
Yeah. Did you see the announcement of the new Harley?
Dude, how killer is that?
That somebody woke up at Harley and is paying attention for a change.
When I seen that posted the other morning, I was like, whoa.
I had to do a double take. Chris Callan, you got to come in on this.
I will, unashamedly.
So from a journalist's point of view, motorcycle journalist, what was your first reaction on this?
You know what, man? I got to tell you, it was relieved, because regardless of what people think, when you're in this stuff for a long time with doing the Harley thing, like for a lot of us, there's no flip the patch thing. Like we bleed black and orange, and the motor company, like, even on our far out choppers, it starts and ends with Harley. And to see them do this, like for, all the outreach that they've been doing, and they've been, making motorcycles that fit smaller people, and they make motorcycles that appeal to younger people, and there's an electric motorcycle, and there's an adventure motorcycle. It was like such a breath of fresh air to see them acknowledge their roots and the history and, just everything that, that it's such an impressive company to span the generations that they have, and for them to give a tip of the hat back and also say, yeah, look, we're doing all this new stuff, but don't think we forgot for a minute who we are and where we come from.
Well, that's kind of was my take. I've kind of felt in the past 5 or 10 years, they've kind of been fumbling the football, and for them to come out with this, they're realizing that retro look and the iconic, and they're calling it their icon collection, but that iconic look is what made them, and maybe it wasn't such a bad idea.
No, and it's an exciting chapter for them too. Next week this week coming up on Shop Talk, we're actually going to have someone from the company is going to be on to talk about this program, because it promises more releases. And I mean, right here in the picture I have up, it's 1,500 numbered edition, 1,500 of the 2021 Electric Glide Revival. It immediately makes me start to wonder what's next. What are they getting ready for?
And in their press release, they say that they will have no more than 2 iconic motorcycles announced in a year.
Yeah.
Right. So obviously they have a lot of tricks up their sleeve here.
Yeah.
They promise to have at least 1 iconic motorcycle every year coming up, but no more than 2. So you could possibly see 2. Maybe a knucklehead type style.
And like, listen, man, honestly, I have to say this and admit this out in the open in front of everyone. Like, we're smart asses sometimes with some of the stuff that they do. And, but who could imagine how well they pulled this off? And maybe it was just because it was the perfect style of motorcycle that complements the, you know, the chassis and everything that they have today. But I mean, who would have thought that it would have been, you know, that spot on? Because, like, honestly, man, it just blew me away.
It's kind of irony, isn't it?
It is.
That's a little inside joke between me and Chris. That's a good looking bike. Don't let them get away with too much marketing talk. Talk to them, you know, make them talk to you like real people when they come on.
I kind of have the inside that it might actually be Paul James himself, and of all the people I know in the company, and there's tons of great people at Harley Davidson still to this day, like, you know, tried and true. Paul James I've known for a super long time, and I can tell you that cat is through and through an enthusiast. He loves motorcycles. He loves the brand. He loves the product. So it'll be exciting.
Good.
It'll be a great talk.
Yeah, absolutely.
Good. Sounds like a great show. Sunday night. Tell us where we can watch that.
You can tune in Sunday night at Cycle Source Magazine through Facebook or YouTube, and check us out, Shop Talk Live, 9 p.m. East Coast. See you then.
Fantastic. Jason, you got any parting words?
I don't.
I can see you, but I don't see your lips moving. You are one
I'm
hell of
actually
a
ready to go.
ventriloquist.
I'm in freaking Vegas.
Vegas, baby. Well, keep us all posted on what's happening with Mecum, man. I'm going to be watching your Facebook page constantly and your Instagram.
Yeah, absolutely. I'll be, like I said, I'll post them across all the platforms and just show you people that didn't get a chance to come for this one what you're missing.
Well, listen, I want to thank everybody for tuning in tonight and sticking with us. It was a long show, but what a great guest we had tonight. So with that, I'm going to say goodnight, and we're going to see you next week on Hump Day right here on Motorcycle Cannonball Chronicles. Thanks,
Awesome.
everyone, for watching.
See you guys next week.